but I did see the Time movie. It's called Groundhog Day, right? Is that the one we're reviewing today?
Oh my gosh.
But
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. No,
You're
we're
so
reviewing the Tom Cruise and Emily
funny.
Blunt vehicle, right? The Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
No,
Ty,
anyone?
Yep.
you don't know
How about
this
a
movie
map of
until you've
tiny
seen
perfect things that came out the exact same time? This is the Prestige
Haven't
and
seen that
the
one.
the Illusionist Effect. There were two movies, Palm Springs and a map of tiny perfect things. Which movie was better?
Palm Springs
Very
is
curious.
definitely better than Map of Tiny Perfect.
I kind of like the map of tiny
Haven't
perfect
seen.
things. But then again,
You
I
haven't
don't
even
have
seen Palm
Hulu,
Springs.
so I couldn't be bothered to see Palm Springs. So I'm going to get off the podcast.
Happy
Love the
Death
car.
Day was pretty good too, I thought.
Oh yeah, who could forget Happy Death Day? I did, but thanks for bringing it up. Dear listeners, I haven't watched anything. I'm too busy. I'm making money. Freaking the real deal, right? Like,
He's making so much money that he has amazing cellular
no,
service.
these gosh dang food stamps to buy diapers. Sorry, the Slim Shady haircut, Strider. So now I'm thinking Eminem lyrics, but
Jake, you get a haircut as well too?
I did. Looks like a proper Englishman. Dapper English.
Yeah.
For real, with the stash too. Hello, governor.
Welcome to Future Hidden Movie Gems. My name is Jordan. I'm your child. I knew I had a child. All right, and then we got Cameron,
What are we doing?
Yes, bro. Oh, that was...
and then
Oh.
our guest Stryder.
No, you're cheating on me, you goof.
Yeah, so-
That is a good one.
and then
Bro, his
Ed-
girlfriend's a loser.
yeah. Oh my
Terrible
gosh.
person.
And then our other guest Jake.
I guess I like this classic line that was like, I'm
Whatever
so
works for
sorry.
you, Jake. First time on, Jake? Yeah, the totally classic one that that you remember.
Good day so far. Today, tomorrow, yesterday. It's all the same. Just kind of like setting up the story.
Oh yeah, and he just keeps repeating that, right?
Yeah.
When he's
Yeah,
sitting on
we-
the water tube or whatever it's called, little pizza.
Uh-huh.
Today we're talking about Palm Springs, ladies and gentlemen. This was Cameron's choice. I just want to clarify that.
Oh my gosh. Yes, it's so good.
Nothing wrong with it.
And then
Yeah, you tell him, Jake.
It's a great film. Just saying. I've seen it 5 times.
Cameron, do you want to start us off and tell us what was it like watching for the first time? Were you the first
well,
person to watch it?
It's made in 2020, directed by Max Barbacow or Barbacow,
A name I will never remember.
written by Andy Ciara and Max as well. And then it stars Andy Samberg, J.K. Simmons, Kristen Melody, and Peter Gallagher, among others. And yeah, what it was like watching for the first time. I think the first time I watched it was Christmas 2020 with Jake. It was
Yeah.
me, Jake, and Grant.
Was Jordan not there that time?
I don't think so. We watched it at that like cabin in Heber or whatever.
Yeah.
And you hadn't seen it yet, right? Or you had seen it once already?
I may have seen it once at that point.
Okay. And I just
Wow.
remember Jake being like, I really enjoyed this. You guys should check it out. And I just remember the first time watching it, me, Grant, and Jake were laughing so much and really enjoyed it. And I've been surprised. I've seen this now. I think rewatching it for the pod was my 3rd or 4th time. And I really enjoy showing this to people because it's a very, I mean, there's lots of movies with kind of a similar plot, but this is one of the ones that I thought took kind of a fun spin, that like the entire plot twist wasn't like, oh, this is Groundhog Day. It's like, oh, I thought it was kind of like a cynical, like dark humor take on it, where it was almost just like, yeah, this kind of sucks or whatever.
How is Groundhog Day not a dark humor? He literally tries to kill himself like a zillion times.
No, yeah, I know. That's
Okay.
why I like this one as well.
Well, you said it, but you said you like that. You said it's different, and I'm trying to understand how it's different. It seems like exactly the same thing.
I feel like it focused heavier on the comedy aspects. I don't know. Compared
Yeah,
to Groundhog Day? I don't know.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe it's
I
just
think-
different generational humor.
No, Jordan's just refusing to allow this is an enjoyable movie. Uh,
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll get into my stuff.
Jordan just hates Andy Samberg, but I
a
really
strong word.
enjoyed. I really enjoyed.
Did
each
you watch
rewatch
Brooklyn Nine-Nine before or after this, Cameron?
between.
Okay.
I've enjoyed it every time on the rewatch, and I was even just watching like a recap video today too, just to kind of refresh my mind on it, because it'd been like a week or two, and I was surprised at how much I laughed just even in the recap video, just explaining the plot. Like just the scene that will never not make me laugh is when he gets shot in the shoulder for the first time, like the jump scare where it's just like ah, ah. And I love how he just like doesn't explain it, and he's just like, run, he's here. But no, yeah, it's a. I've been surprised at how like rewatchable it is.
I was debating to use this quote at the beginning because I thought it was funny, but my wife did not think it was funny. But when the earth starts to shake and he goes, "I am the anti," I thought it was fetching hilarious,
So
but
funny.
she didn't think it was very funny. Okay, let's go on to Jake.
Yeah, first time, very first time. I mean, I must have enjoyed it because then I showed it to Cam and Grant. So, like, I remember
Push it
that
on
time
everyone.
watching it, the second time more, just because watching it with, the fun, close cousins was just a good time. And now I've seen it up. I was watching it today with Stryder to kind of review, and that would be my fifth time watching it now, just showing it to so many people.
Dang.
So I love it every time. Now I'm just more of a fan, to be honest. I don't know. It's so rewatchable, like as Cam said. It's very good.
And then Strider.
My first time watching it was with my friend here, Jacob. It was pretty. I was in a great state of mind when we watched it for the first time, so I think I think I really pulled a lot of the humoristic aspects out of it. So I just thought it was a really funny movie and a great take on groundhogs. And then my second time watching it, I felt like I realized how thought provoking it can be in a weird way. And to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, Cameron, like the one thing I latched onto instantly with the movie was I like how the spin they take or the way they kind of take it, they don't dodge any topics that you would actually be thinking of if you were stuck in that situation. Like there's some pretty gnarly morals and ethics that you would break if you were stuck in that kind of lifestyle. So I don't know. I that's why I love that movie so much.
Especially when how he kind of talks to her and it's like it's not okay to cause pain on those people because like that pain's still real. Like it's
Mhm.
still like they still feel it. And it's
It
like,
sticks with you.
oh dang.
So getting into what I thought about it, I actually am surprised. So the first two times, so I watched it once and I was not a fan. Cameron mentioned I don't hate Andy Samberg. I'm just not a fan of his humor. He's like my least favorite character in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I like all the other characters more.
Crazy.
And he just has a weird sense of humor. And then let's see, the second time, so my wife only watches comedies, and so I was going down the list, and basically at the bottom of the list is Palm Springs, and I'm like, well, I've got nothing else to watch, so we watched it. And but on this third time for the podcast, I was like so dreading watching this again. I actually enjoyed it, and I thought it was fun. So
What did Tot think of it?
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
I think she liked it. She likes anything comedy, so.
Okay. But it wasn't anything spectacular for her.
I don't think so because it's already been done to death kind of at this point, which I don't get tired of this premise. I love, and you guys said I do agree they did hit it at maybe a different angle a little bit. Like it's still
Maybe a
it's
different.
it's Groundhog Day. I mean, I do like that they added things into it, which we'll get into on my two favorite things, but I appreciated they did other
Do
things.
you want to just start with your two favorite things? Because I feel like you probably have the least amount of good things to say about it.
I don't know. I guess what I just said and kind of going into it a little bit more is they had two people and well three technically if you count J.K. Simmons. I mean he is countable, but
I
it's
mean, there's
like
a
he's
fourth, technically.
the goat. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I guess him too, actually. But do you remember the old lady at the end? Kind of.
Oh, she did say something, and I was going
It
to ask
seems like she
that.
made, yeah, like
Oh,
that she
well, I thought maybe she
she
was
was
the one who
there
caused the whole thing because I was like, oh, is this
yeah.
like the angel or whatever, or maybe she's a demon and she's like the one cursing everybody. Because when she said, she's like, "You got to
It's like,
go,"
oh, you'll
and
be leaving soon, or yeah, you got to go,
yeah,
or something. I can't remember, but
yeah, she could have
one of
just
those
been
things.
saying. I think perhaps they were trying to like, oh, this is where you can theorize, and like, she could be anything. It's kind of fun. So I just appreciate the adding more characters because it puts a very fun and interesting spin when somebody else is kind of trapped in that same situation. Uh, so it's just like adds more to it. And I appreciated that because there's a lot of jokes, a lot more jokes you can have that you couldn't have with one person being alone. And I think that's why I was surprised you thought this one was dark. I felt like that one was darker because it's like he was so isolated and like he was in this world where nobody else could understand what he was going through. You know, he could sit there and explain it to that one girl, but the very next day she had forgotten it. And it's like, I'm alone. So, anyways,
Yeah, but I feel like it's almost even more isolating when it's like you're alone with someone, because then it's like this chick is trapped in this loop with you and doesn't want to be apart like with you.
Well, that I mean, yeah, it can be torture. I mean, quite literally, he gets tortured by J.K. Simmons, but he ends up falling in love with her, so it's kind of like he's got the best thing going on.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Seeing dinosaurs changes you, man. Seeing dinosaurs together,
Yeah.
wow.
That's
Dude,
right.
see, this is J.K. Simmons' life after retiring as Terrence Fletcher. He stopped mentally abusing people as as a band instructor, and then just went to killing people. And I love his like pessimistic take on marriage, and then he's like, yeah, well, being stuck in the loops changed my like opinion on it. I'm like, that's crazy.
All right, Cameron, what about if you want to talk about yours?
I think my first favorite thing is probably just um very opposite of Jordan. I love Andy Samberg, and I just think he like his delivery and just personality is just very likable. I also just think I that's what also is so fun, like especially on the first watch and even just on the rewatch. I love how opposite he's acting in the beginning or just in the wedding in general, how he's so casual, especially because of like weddings, everything needs to like look perfect and this and that. And then he's just like in flip flops and like the Hawaiian t-shirt. I just think it's like the perfect, just like contrast and showing kind of how silly sometimes like all the surroundings of weddings can be of like everyone needs to say the perfect things or whatever. Like there's nothing wrong with the bride and stuff like that. Um, and like him giving the speech and just like how easy it is to manipulate people. And then kind of similar to what Strider's already mentioned, I think the implications and questions that like poses are so interesting because it's just kind of like I love it's like what would you do if you could essentially figure out like a person's trauma or whatever like what they love, and then like you could meet them a day later without them knowing that you knew all of that. Like, how would you interact with that person? And it's just so interesting to me that like that dilemma of like if you knew what you would need to say to get what you wanted from this person, would you say it? Even though it's like sort of unethical because like they disclose this to you like but it's like, but they did. It's like you didn't find it out illegally, but it's like, what if you found out from like one of their friends where it's like, oh yeah, they have like a peanut allergy or whatever. So, or like they love people who love this band. It's like they're like the biggest Michael Jackson fan. And you're like, oh, well, I love Michael Jackson. Cause I'm like, isn't that kind of like what dating is sometimes, where it's like you kind of pretend to like something just to get somebody to like you, and then it's like once they like you, you can kind of like even confess to them like, oh, I actually don't really like that, and then they're like, oh, that's funny, that's cute that you would do that to get to me to like you. And it's like it's just like that weird level of manipulation that sometimes we allow as long as we've like already established a relationship. So I don't know, I just thought a lot of the questions that it posed were really interesting.
Interesting. All right, Jake, what about you?
Yeah, so I guess kind of a little bit along the lines of what you said, Jordan, with like multiple characters. I found it really fun to have like the pro guy that's been there forever
Yeah.
versus like this new girl is discovering everything for the first time. So she's like super stressed. It's all very new. Versus Andy Samberg's character is just like
I've
it's
already
normal.
tried
This is how
that.
it is. Like I've done that. This is how it works.
Or I love
So
when
it's
she
really
says
fun to
something
see
and he's
that.
like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that." Like,
Yeah, it's very fun to see just the different perspectives on the whole scenario coming from
with
both sides,
with
new
very
versus
different
old.
personalities too, which
Yeah.
is really fun.
And then second thing, I just found all the one-liners and remember like memorable quotes actually to be really fun because with me and Stryder, we were watching it again earlier, and we were both just like line after line, almost getting most of the lines down just off memory, just because the scenes are so kind of just cheesy, quirky, funny, at least to us, and just the lines and dialogue was really fun for me to go through again.
You know, the one thing I regret is not watching it with more people. So you got that right. I wish I had done that. All right, Strider, what about you?
My favorite part in the movie, the biggest thing I pull from it, I think, is when she's kind of learning what's going on, and I just remember there being a line, something along the lines of like, you kind of just have to learn how to suffer in this existence. And towards the end of the movie, the thing that like I really started to question was like, would I leave that situation if I happened to get stuck in it? Like, would I have followed her? Because part of me wants to think maybe I wouldn't. Like, I think something about being able to treat life as a sandbox and like kind of as a video game in a sense, in some ways sounds
Yes.
fun to me. Like, and it sounds in a way maybe more fulfilling than like going back to the regular life, because like at the end of the movie when they're in the pool and they're like, oh, I guess the family comes home on November 10th, like that was a sad moment for me, because like that I don't know, he was getting away with that for so long, and then for him to have that reality set back in, that can't be easy. So
Yeah, well,
that's honestly my favorite part.
and I wonder if there's at all like, because adjusting to that, what if he's like, like, oh, I'll be fine. Like if I die, it's like, no, you got to remember you're not in the video game world anymore. You
Exactly.
can actually die.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's what's crazy too, is we don't even know how long he's been in there. So it's like,
Yes.
homie could have had like 150 years of trauma, and now he's just stuck in like this 32-year-old body where he's like, help me.
I have a question kind of about that. There was a line where he said kind of like the girl was asking him, "Oh, like what did you do for a job or like working before?" And he was like trying to think about it. Do you
Couldn't
think he was
remember.
like joking that he couldn't remember, or was that actually sincere? Because it almost didn't come
I
off as sincere to me a little bit. I thought
Yeah,
he was almost.
I thought he was joking
I
at
feel like it
first,
was.
but now that I've seen it 3 times, I'm like, you know what? Maybe he actually doesn't remember, and
Well,
maybe
and
he's been there forever.
and I'm curious, as a follow-up to that, how long do you think you guys would need to be in something like that to forget your job?
Exactly. Like
Like you
that was a
like
big
that
part of your life.
that's got
Like
to be like at least like,
100 years, like
yeah, maybe something like that.
70
Because I'm like,
years.
at least in a
Or you
lifetime, you'd
lose
be
your.
like, oh, I'm pretty sure I was a painter or something like that. Like the
Uh-huh.
fact that he could have like potentially been in there for like 100 plus years is just insanity.
I kind of like to play into the idea that he did know and he was just acting oblivious, because at the end of the movie he goes like, "Oh, you want to go pick up my dog?" So like
Mm,
definitely still remembers part of his past life if he's able to, but maybe that's
true,
just an easier thing to hold on to.
true. But maybe he also has interacted with his dog more recently than thought about or done his job.
I guess that's true because it would
Eh,
still be.
Well, it could just be fragments of things that he remembers too, because like I going back and just remembering memories from my mind, it's like I remember certain things and other things I've
Mm,
just like completely,
true.
especially if it came to work, that would be the first thing I would try to forget. I just push it in the back of my mind.
Yeah. No, and a thing that I thought was interesting as well, and I think it's like, because I think there's like so many different messages to pull from it. Like one of the messages that I thought that was kind of cool is almost like the juxtaposition of the lead girl and then also Andy Samberg's girlfriend. Because for me, I'm like, it's the perfect demonstration of it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Because I think it's so interesting that like the main lead, like she woke up, like Sarah woke up after committing like a huge mistake. Like she slept with her sister's like husband, and then like she gets redeemed later in the day essentially. And then yet like
She has to
the
relive that mistake every morning, though.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
but then versus Misty, who like every morning is like not making the mistake and is with her boyfriend, but then every single night is making that mistake. Because I'm like, to me, it shows that like her, like because she started from the failure or whatever, she was able to learn from it and kind of grow. Versus like Misty, where she's like starting off like, oh, she's not like terrible, but she's not exactly like the best. But then she makes the mistake and just kind of like prevents her own growth. I thought was kind of cool.
I can also see why you like this too, Cameron. There's a lot that reminds me of About Time, and just the sense that like the end message is like you should live day to day and like continue life instead of like just trying to relive every moment
Yeah.
and stay in the past. So
Well,
I think
and honestly, I think like my interactions would be, or how I would act is pretty similar to, I feel like, Andy Samberg in this movie, because I feel like there's very few things like I like wouldn't try out. Like I'm like, I would want to see like what it would take to like get this old, like this the mom or whatever to like go on a date with me, or like what it would take to like get this dude to give me some coke, like just kind of like push the limits of like, let's see how crazy, or like what are the limits of every person, and then kind of like then you almost have like just a book of like, okay, I know like
Cheat code.
what to
Like
say to who. Yeah, exactly. Like what to say to who and what interactions to like do in order to receive these results. It's like the ultimate like science experiment. It's kind of crazy.
Catch me trying to hook up with the man. I don't know if I was in that
Yeah.
position.
What
I
are we
don't know.
doing?
What are we doing?
I love that scene. It's so funny. Even your dad. And see, and that's another thing too that I also think is a really interesting. That's another question that's kind of like another thing that was interesting is the fact that the like why he felt the need to lie to her that he'd hooked up with her before, because it's like that's not a bad thing that like because then it's just insinuating like oh well I like found you like attractive and wanted to get to, but then like right after expressing essentially he was just like I was just seeing who I could hook up with or whatever, like then it kind of is like, oh, so you just thought I was like not a human, but like to him in the circumstances, she wasn't a human. It's
Yeah.
like she was literally an NPC in his life. He's
Mhm.
like, yeah, sure, you have a life previous to this and you're coding or whatever. He's like, but when I wake up tomorrow, you're gonna be exactly back to square one. So you're like no longer human. So it's like, how would you treat other people now that they've almost become non-human by not being able to like grow and experience new experiences outside of a day and being like reset. I don't know.
Have
I just like that's so interesting.
Have you seen Westworld, Jake or Strider?
I don't believe so.
Don't think so.
Okay,
No.
yeah, it's kind of fun. It's a real world video game where people go and every day is reset and they remake all the robots and stuff. But it's fun because some of the robots become sentient, and so every day for at least one or two of the robots, they are slowly like changing little things, and it's like real people come in and play the video game. But I don't know, it's really cool.
Essentially, the premise of the show is like you get to live out whatever fantasy you want. So it's like if you've always wanted to murder somebody, you can like go into this video game and actually murder somebody, and just because it gets like reset or whatever. And so
Yeah,
like people use it to like fulfill whatever like fantasy or desire that they've wanted.
Jeez.
yeah,
Interesting.
a
Yeah,
You
lot.
said Westworld?
Yeah,
It's
Westworld.
it's a
But
show or a
it is a
movie?
show though.
Yeah, it's a show,
But by
right?
season two, it kind of like tapers off, and it's not great. But it was made by Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan. He did what was the recent thing he just did that people are talking about? Oh, Fallout. He did
uh,
Fallout.
Oh yeah, I heard that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Was
He
what was it released on this uh the series we're talking about?
oh,
Westworld. Yeah,
Westworld is on
HBO.
HBO.
Yeah, they do really well. Like their
Yeah,
productions are
yeah,
Westworld.
always
yeah.
top notch.
HBO and Amazon Prime, I think, have the best shows.
I I don't know. I feel like there's few here
Because
and there.
Amazon Prime, Jordan has Invincible, The Boys, Jack Reacher.
Yeah, well, you want to sit and talk through all the Netflix stuff? Like, we got Stranger Things, Squid Games. Um, I
Stranger Things has fallen off.
well, yeah, no. I'm talking like first season, like solid.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
after that,
Invincible hasn't fallen off Nugget or The Boys. So
not yet. We're only 2 seasons in. The Boys
yeah,
has
and it's
definitely tapered off.
perfect so far.
Anyways, we can argue about all sorts of stuff. Any final quotes? Because I know you said there was a bunch of quotes you guys liked.
Oh, I that was another thing I thought was cool too. Is I loved the where she's like, "What if we get sick of each other?" And then when he was like, "We already are," I thought
Yeah.
that was kind of a beautiful line. That I'm like, also kind of a simplification of love, where it's just like love is more than just like infatuation. It's just like, yeah, of course you're gonna get annoyed with somebody. It's like they're a different human being that has other. It's like we get annoyed with ourselves. So it's like, of course we're gonna get annoyed with another person, but it's like that doesn't change that we don't want to spend like time with them.
I think too, what really bothered me the first time watching it is I just thought she was such a twerp, I guess is a nicer word to call. I just when at the very end when she was just like, well, I don't need you, but and then I was like, all right, well, and now I'm just like, okay, she's got personality. And also I've been married, so I understand girls are crazy. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's just I'm growing to like her. So sorry. Any more quotes?
Emphatic period. I don't know. That's a
That's
good one.
right.
I loved like the scenes where they started kind of interrupting the ceremony, the marriage ceremony in so many interesting ways. Like I loved the part where they were like pretending one of them was like an evil supervillain and he like had a bomb in the cake and they were like,
The crossbow.
like saying all like the heavy
It's a
accents.
good thing
just,
I'm a
like,
bomb expert.
Yeah.
I just loved all these interesting scenes. Just had such good like ideas behind it that the dialogue was just so unique as well to go with it. So I just think like that scene specifically was really fun for me.
To kind of play into that, and I'm sorry to do this, but like I feel like for being a Groundhog movie, they do such a good job at showing you the same event, but in like so many different ways. And it's like you're
Mhm.
never bored watching the wedding scene. Like there's always something going on, which is
because
so
I feel like sometimes in the Groundhogs they have to like establish like it's a repeat day, so much of it's gonna be the same. But I love how they would spice it up every single like almost never was it like verbatim, like either like words or actions. And that's what, and honestly, Shredder, that's why I totally agree with you that there's part of me that would want to stay too, because it's like there's a level of power too that like I feel like you can have so much personal growth knowing that everything is like confined that I'm like, oh, I could learn so many different languages, or like I could do like those ideas because it's kind of the same idea that you have like, oh, during summer, like there's this month of summer that I don't have work or school. I'm gonna do all these amazing things. And it's like if you knew that that summer would last for
ever.
100 years, yeah, it's like think about all the different things that you would maybe like dive into. It's like think about how many movies and albums you would listen to and all like different things and different hobbies. So
I hadn't
there
even
is
thought
that part of
about
you that's
that.
like, oh man, I could watch every single movie ever, listen to every like album ever. Do I want to go back to reality and then have a
Exactly, man.
job, have to pay for bills, like do all these things? It's like, especially if you have someone in that like reality that is growing with you. I don't know. It is an interesting question.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. Was part of another one of something I love is just seeing the exact same situation, but if he had said something different, the situation, how different
Mm.
that would turn out. I don't know why there's something so satisfying about that. Also, another thing in Westworld where they interact with the same people that do the same things, but they do something different. Suddenly, you're like, oh, this story is going a different direction. Along with the lines you guys said, video games. That's what.
Yeah, it honestly, this is like a real life Telltale game. It's just
Uh,
like it's like all the interactions and like in those Telltale games, I always have like my I don't know, it's like OCD or whatever, but I always want to know what the reaction would have been if I chose a different thing. Because I'm
yeah.
like, if I would have said this, then how would you
Yeah.
react to
Did I
that?
make the wrong decision here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Questioning every decision. Yeah.
no, but a definite recommendation. Especially if you like Andy Samberg and if you like his humor, definitely. And
I
even
kind of
if
have
you
one
don't,
more.
maybe you could come around and be converted like Jordan. It'll just take 3 watches and then
Yeah.
you'll like
It's took three.
And watch it with a group of people. That's another thing.
yes.
That's a good point.
Yes. Yeah, it is a good group show. Similar to most of like the Groundhog Day movies. I feel like the comedy and just like the plot is very easy to digest and a good group watch.
Hmm.
What were we gonna say? I was maybe going to bring up one last scene that I really enjoyed was where Andy Samberg was kind of going over the characters he tried to hit on, kind of. And I think he's at this point hitting on, I guess it's the bride to be. He's like, "Can I cut in?" And he's like, "It's the first dance." And he's like, "Is that a deal breaker?" He's like, I thought it was so funny how he's
That was
like
good.
trying such crazy things that obviously aren't going to go over well and kind of expecting it to maybe be possible. So I thought that was pretty
100%.
fun. You know,
And I can't
Yes.
imagine like the because it would like still have social anxiety because like there would still be the reaction, but at the same time it's like no consequences. So it's like maybe would you over time just like get accustomed and lose your social anxiety because it's just like these people aren't like they're not even gonna remember tomorrow. But it's like but I feel like every like natural human part of you, if you were to like do something like that, would still feel that awkwardness of everyone being like, oh, but then
But I
like
feel
even
like you can see it in him. Like his comfortability stays very constant throughout the whole film, like
that
from
is
the get
true.
go.
That is
Like
true.
grabbing cocaine out of someone's pocket, suit pocket is nuts. That's
That
crazy.
is crazy.
That's how
That's
you potentially get shot.
yeah. That's years and years and years of, just being stuck in that universe
Yeah, I was like, what are you gonna do? Kill me, and then I wake up tomorrow,
and then
do the
figure out
same
how to
thing
do it.
again. Yeah, and wear bulletproof vest under my Hawaiian t-shirt.
Yeah. Well, and knowing, I feel like this film works better too if you have seen movies like Groundhog Day and other films like it, because right from the get-go, or if this is your first time watching this type of movie, just rewatch this movie again because the beginning is really fun because you're like, I wonder how many times he had to do that speech till he got it just right, and how many things he had to do to essentially get in because clearly that's what he was trying to do. And
Mhm.
so I just love that it was like he did all these things to, say
Yeah.
exactly what
How
she
many
needed to
times did he
hear.
fail before it working out?
Well, and saying the perfect responses. Like I'm like, this is almost too good. It's like, and it's funny because it's like written like a script, which it is, but he was able to essentially revise it over time and make it perfect. So
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
clever.
They let the husband off too easy at the end. Way too easy.
Yeah, bro, he's a piece of garbage.
I hate that character. And
Cheating on your wife the
Oh.
night before the wedding is the most criminal behavior I've
With the
unreal.
sister.
With the sister.
with the sister. I'm like, bro, ain't nothing. I'm like, it's easier to redeem Jamie Lannister than this, bro. It's easier to redeem.
I just love when he holds the pillow. Smell this.
Yeah, he's like, I know that shampoo.
You're just drunk. You've been drinking all day.
Yes.
But she's always cracking a beer in every scene. That's kind of funny too.
Yes. Yeah, those are great. What have you seen lately and what are you looking forward to? Cameron.
So I finally finished Boy, which was really enjoyable. I just love
Oh
the
boy, I was thinking Boyhood. I love Boy. It's so much better than Hunt for the Wilder People. You're high for not thinking it is.
not even close, but it is very solid, and I just love the New Zealander accent, just the Michael Jackson. And I mean, it's honestly extremely depressing. I didn't realize how like Taika does a really good job of like balancing kind of like
Humor.
he honestly has dark humor. I thought he was just like very lighthearted humor, but like the more I watch it, he just like will have like something very tragic, which honestly I think is a really good representation of life. And I think that's why a lot of people really like his movies, is because like something tragic will happen, and then it's just like he tries to find the humor in it, which is like definitely a coping mechanism. And so I thought it was like 8 out of 10, really solid. And then I also rewatched Hunt for the Wilder People because Colton hadn't watched it, and we watched it for his birthday because he's like, "What's an uplifting movie?" Because all of his favorite movies are depressing movies, and so we're like, "Okay, we can't watch something depressing on your birthday." And so because he loves like Manchester by the Sea and in Bruges and all that, so we watched Hunt for the Wilder People. 10 out of 10. It's amazing, and the humor holds up every single time. It's so funny. And then I watched Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1 because I'm a hot guy doing hot guy stuff. And I was kind of underwhelmed. Uh the reviews for Part 1 and Part 2 are both pretty low. But because like apparently the comic is amazing. And so I think also that was why I was more disappointed, because I've heard such amazing things about the comics. And then both of them were kind of a disappointment. But it was 6 out of 10. It was solid. And then I watched Insomnia 2 nights ago with Drew because he hadn't seen it. Garbage bags.
Bitch bags.
It's so good. It's crazy to me how far Nolan's come, because like you can obviously tell like there's me and Drew were kind of talking about there's like no flaws in the film, but at the same time it's just like especially with cinematography and things like that, you can just see how much he's elevated his game and his like craft and just kind of mastered his craft. But I mean, still 9 out of 10 for me. And then I went and saw The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which is by Guy Ritchie, which isn't Jordan's favorite director, but I love Guy Ritchie, and
I appreciate him, Cameron.
yeah, I said you didn't love him, which was accurate. But I really enjoyed it. It's literally essentially just Guy Ritchie's version of Inglourious. It's like Man from Uncle mixed with Inglourious, and super enjoyable. I give it 8 out of 10. And every single scene with Alan Rickman and his bow and arrow and his knife, like stabbing of Nazis, is the most insane thing ever. I'm like, this is like Game of Thrones-esque violence, or like Inglourious or Django-esque violence. It was insane. Like people just getting stabbed like 7 times down their back with like, I'm like, what is going on? Or people getting like arrow through the neck that goes through another dude's like throat. I'm like, yo. So yeah, it's insane. But it's almost it's that weird level of like Django and Inglorious, like dark humor, where it's like it's violent humor, but it's like it's okay to laugh because they're Nazis. So it's like one of those things that like there's scenes where Henry Cavill is like just like shooting him, where he's like, "Oh hey guys, hey fellas," and then they're like, "Oh Sergeant," because he's like wearing one of the Nazi uniforms, and he's like, "At ease," and it just like unloads on them. I'm like, this is kind of crazy, but
I like
really
how you
enjoyed it.
pronounce his name, Cavill.
I don't know, Cavill. I don't know how to say it. But and then also more hot guy stuff. Been showing Colton Death Note because we're
Dude, Death Note is the
it's
shiz.
so
Get out of here.
good.
So good.
And it's so funny because he watched what's the super famous Spirited Away, which I think is overrated and not that good, but he watched it and he gave it 5 stars and was like, I'm officially a weeb now. And I'm like,
Wait,
yes.
you
come to
showed
the-"
him Spirited Away?
No,
Oh,
he
okay. I
he
was
watched
like,
it.
I'm like, you would show because you're not a fan of it. Spirited Away is a masterpiece. You high.
Because he watched it. His like mom bought him tickets for his birthday to go see it in theaters. So he watched that, and then I
jealous.
also watched the first two episodes of 1883 with
Oh
my
yeah,
dad and
that was
Jordan's
fun.
stepdad, and yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, like
It's really good.
not amazing. The chicken is really hot, but um, and then looking forward to just watching
Oh, so you didn't
more.
end up watching Hell or High Water? I thought you were gonna watch that.
Nah, I was thinking about it, but we ended up watching Insomnia instead.
Ah,
And then looking forward to watching more Adventure Time, and probably I'll be watching some Adventure Time this weekend with Jake and Stryder, and potentially a movie or two. And then I also really want to see Fall Guy because it comes out this Friday, so I might try to see it next Tuesday.
what about you two?
Recently, I watched a series called Shogun on Hulu that's dealing with like this the first like or one of the first like European settlers, not settlers, traders to land in Japan. And at
Were
this
you
point,
hooked right away, or are you into it?
I am. Yeah, I finished the series already because it was
Okay.
releasing weekly, so I was watching weekly for 10 weeks.
I couldn't
And
get into that first episode, but I haven't finished it, so
yeah, maybe episode one is just kind of like
establishing
the
stuff.
starter establishing. I think after that it gets much better,
Okay.
and I've been loving it. I loved it. I've finished it now because the series has now concluded.
I mean,
It's based on a book.
it's as
It's
gruesome as Game of Thrones, that's for sure. They
it
were like
is, yeah.
cooking a
I
guy at
heard
the
they're like, yeah,
beginning.
boiling a dude alive in the first
Yeah,
episode.
I got to
So
that, and I'm
like
just
a-
like, oh my gosh!
a
And then they murdered a
decapitation right off the
child.
bat too, and oh yeah, just craziness. But it's the settings are so good, just like Game of Thrones. Like it feels like you're there, like in ancient, not ancient, but like 1800s Japan, like before any electronics, everything that's now we know and love. But like back then, it was very different. And this film really takes you back to a totally different culture within a totally different area, and it's just all feels like you're right there. So been loving that. That's kind of the only thing I've watched as of late. Um,
That is surprising. I feel like you watch so many shows. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he does watch a ton of shows, but not a movie guy. Loser.
I guess I want to just quickly ask. I don't know if we want this in the podcast, but I was curious, Jordan. Have you seen Psychopaths? Because you liked.
No, that's on my
No?
bucket list. I just finished season 1 of. I think you recommended this, maybe not, as somebody did. Oh, what's that one where he's wearing a blindfold and he eats the fingers? What is that one
Oh,
called?
what is that one? Is that Jujutsu
Chainsaw
Kaisen?
Man?
Yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay.
Yeah, I watched that. I just finished season 1, enjoyed that. I still need to finish Demon Slayer. There's too many anime
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still have like my favorites that I go back to many times. Like I rewatched Chainsaw Man with Cameron.
So good. Yeah.
I
And
mean,
he just finished Avatar: The Last Airbender for the first time too.
oh,
Okay.
I did. Yeah, just like a week or two ago.
Awesome.
Yes. So, wait, but yes, I have Psychopaths. That one's on the top of my list. I'm weird, and instead of just subscribing to Crumble, which would be the smart thing to do, and it would save me a ton of money, I wait till it goes on sale, and then I buy all the seasons. I don't know why.
Gotcha.
Something's wrong with me.
Many
Yeah,
a
because
thing.
me and Cam recently tried episode 1 of that show, which maybe Cam didn't. I don't know if you loved it or not, but we thought
I
it was
hated
all.
it so much.
Wait, which
It's
one?
similar. It's similar in context to Death Note.
What's it called?
It's honestly like
Psychopaths. Oh,
Jordan, it's
yeah.
kind of like Minority Report too. It's just like essentially there's like a gun that makes like a or like a decision on whether or not you're like at a level of threat to kill or just to tase to arrest. And if you reach like a level, it's essentially like it's like a psychological test, yeah.
Mm.
And then if you pass it, then like you just get shot and just tased and taken in until you like calm down. But then if someone's like an ultimate threat, then like the gun upgrades to where it'll like shoot to kill. It's pretty crazy.
And it's similar in a way to Death Note. Sorry, I just want to quickly
no,
add.
please.
Eventually, after episode 1, there's like this main bad guy, and then there's this other main guy working with the police force. So it's kind of similar in the way to Death Note, where L and Light, like the police were investigating Light, and in this show, it's like this police guy is investigating another mastermind criminal guy, and it's just really interesting to see how they like interact and almost get each other and get away. It's all really, really good in that way, like Death Note.
Okay. I forgot what I was
Season
gonna
one
say.
is very good, but everything else. Season two, and like there's a movie or something, but season two is okay. I think season three actually changes the whole cast, which is weird. Like it's a new rendition of it. But season one, fantastic.
It's definitely high on the bucket list. So,
Cool.
Stryder.
Stride, what about you?
I recently watched like the Unbreakable, like all three of those movies, Unbreakable, Split, and
Oh,
Glass.
mm-hmm.
Those were really good. There was parts, and I don't know if this is just how they shot it. There was parts where I felt like I got a little disconnected, and it just felt a little awkward. And sometimes the dialogue felt a little cheesy. So it was a good like 7.5. And then I watched Nonstop with
Which
Liam
was your
Neeson.
favorite of the three? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Because for me, Split is my number one, and then Unbreakable. I haven't seen Glass yet. Though.
I won't watch Glass.
I think Split was the most interesting and like the easiest watch. I think the way they combined the three stories in the end was really cool to watch though too. Like, but other than that, I felt like that was like low key the most boring one, the third one. So yeah, probably Split, I'd say.
Okay.
Okay, well, me and Ty watched that in the theaters, and nobody knew at the time that it was actually part of the Unbreakable universe. So me and Ty, the only like movie geeks in the theater, turned to each other. We're like, "Wow!" When Bruce Willis showed up and he was in the bar, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And everybody else, like even the person I brought, was like, "I don't understand what's going on," and I'm like, "Yes,"
But
because we were.
it's a great way to catch that kind of criminal. Like it's
Yeah.
such a good way to tie those two stories together. Like I was like, oh man, that makes total sense. Like you would want like he's getting away with everything because he keeps it so under wraps.
Yeah, and like all the reveals, because I know M. Night Shyamalan, he's like addicted for some reason to he like feels he has to do
Plot twist.
a
The,
plot
the
twist.
biggest plot twist will be his last movie that doesn't have a plot twist. That'll just be a regular movie, and everyone's like, "Oh."
Yeah, it cracks me up. At this point, it's almost comical because it's like, oh no, what is it gonna be?
Yeah,
But
like, he was crazy the whole time. I never would have guessed.
but it
18 times in a row.
Split was especially fun because like yeah, you didn't know it was part of the universe, and you knew he had twists and all the other ones, and so it was so like unexpected that he like was deciding to make a sequel to his films because he or a prequel. I don't know at what time it places in the movie. Oh, it was the same time, right? Because Bruce Willis
Yeah, but
is
it's
older.
technically a sequel because it's
Okay.
like Bruce Willis has already figured out his skills, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awesome. Anyways, good choice.
What else?
Any other shows? Yeah.
Yeah, and then I watched Nonstop with Liam Neeson, which I really enjoyed. That's a great, just good action movie. Kept me pretty intrigued the whole time. I like the 20 minutes idea. Just all of that is very good. I enjoyed that.
Dude, the scene when the gun like flies in
Yeah.
the air is so sick, and he catches
And he catches it. Dun, dun. Yeah,
Yeah.
fire. And then I saw Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler. I was
Thoughts?
also in a great state of mind, so it didn't make any sense to me because that movie alone by itself is just all over the place. But from parts that I picked, it seemed pretty enjoyable. So I like that.
It's
And then
top
for
100.
show,
I love that movie so freaking much. Oh
Yeah,
my
Jordan's
gosh.
addicted. Jordan loved that. He
I
wants
love that
so
movie.
much.
I need to give it a second watch to give it like, I don't know, to pay my respects to it. I feel like
It's okay. It's so weird.
It's very stressful too. Jordan just loves like those stress ball movies, like
Love
Uncut
stress.
Gems. Like he's just like, oh yes. I'm like, I am so
I
uncomfortable.
thought that was a roller
it made
coaster.
me anxious.
That was like the first real like I'm uncomfortable for him. Like it's so crazy stressful. Like
Yeah, and I'm
this-
like, please
to go
don't
first street.
gamble. Stop. And he's like, oh, I finally got the money, but what if I put this all on Kevin Garnett? And I'm just like, please stop.
Yes.
All right, what else? Stride.
And then just show wise, I watched Smiling Friends. If you guys have seen that, it's an animated series made by YouTubers, so don't expect much from it. But I for my generation, I feel like I get a little bit out of it. And then what I look forward to is the NBA playoffs because they are just so good right now. So
Yeah, they are. Oh my gosh.
that's prime time entertainment for me right now.
For real. Bucks and 7, baby.
Woo!
Yeah. If freaking Dame will come back at least.
Yeah, and no Giannis is just tough in general.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, that's me. That's what I've been watching.
All right, Jordo.
I'll just because I've been watching way too many shows. You can just check my letterbox.
Yeah,
But
just check Jordan's letterbox because he watches like 19 half-star movies a week.
Well, I'm trying to get
Just
through.
straight garbage consumption, bro. He's
I-
literally garbage disposal. It's just
I'm cleaning out my movie collection right now, and I have a ton of movies that I'm like, oh, why did I buy this garbage? And I don't know why. So I just want to say what I'm looking forward to, and I know we've already mentioned it. I mean, I probably have already mentioned it at some point, but I'm really looking forward to Long Legs, which is coming out at some point. I don't know when, but it's Nicolas Cage's serial killer. Yes, please. And then Alien Covenant, because I like the Alien movies, and Terrifier 3. So just basically slasher flicks and really violent ones. I'm so excited.
like this is
I
an
think those
example.
Cage ones sounds fun.
This is an example of one of Jordan's half-star reviews. Meet the Spartans. It says this made me just want to watch 300. Definitely written by a child.
That was your comment, Jordan, on it?
Yeah, it is the worst.
That's awesome.
That is absolute garbage. It's not even funny. It's the worst.
Or like he gives like Dawning of the Dead 1 star and it says some of the bad CGI made me laugh. Like, why are you subjecting yourself to so much trash?
Well, because some of them I actually watch and I end up liking, and so I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't toss this one out, because when I don't like it, I just get rid of it.
Jordan's eating the whole haystack to find the needle.
Yeah, because eventually you'll find a golden nugget. Like I saw some pretty interesting ones. Like Freaks was surprisingly, you actually would like it, Cameron. It's about superheroes. It's dope. It reminds me more of like the older X-Men movies. So I know you're not super into those, but
Those are pretty good.
okay, yeah, maybe check it out.
Why is
Freaks.
mine like slow mo on my video? Am I time traveling? Like what's going on?
I think it's because it's darker in your room. So
It's like trying to adjust.
yeah.
Like the Flash.
Peace, everybody. Yeah.
Peace.
We see us.